My sister framed me for damaging our parents' car after I covered her rent for months, so I turned the tables, and now she's facing consequences. I'm a 27-year-old guy, and for most of my life, I've been the responsible one in my family. My younger sister, Lily, has always been, well, a bit all over the place. She's smart, don't get me wrong, but finances and responsibilities were never her strong suit. Over the past year, she'd been struggling to pay rent, cover groceries, and keep up with basic bills, and I couldn't just sit back and watch her sink. So, I started helping, covering her rent month after month, paying for groceries when she was short, and occasionally slipping her a little extra to make sure she could breathe. Every time I did it, I told myself it wasn't about the money, it was about family. "You really don't have to do all this for me," she said one night over a cheap cup of takeout coffee. "I don't know what I'd do without you, honestly." I could feel the warmth in her eyes, but there was something almost calculated in the way she said it. Still, I smiled and waved it off. "That's what siblings are for," I replied, tucking a $20 bill into her notebook. And for a moment, I really believed that. Friends would sometimes nudge me, raising eyebrows at how much I was helping her. "Man, are you sure she's not just taking advantage of you?" one of them asked casually during a game night. I laughed, shaking my head. "It's my sister," I said. "Blood first, gossip later. I know her. She's grateful." I didn't want to imagine that someone I'd grown up protecting might ever twist that trust. Walking back to my apartment later that evening, I felt this quiet pride swelling in me. I'd always been the good sibling, the one who kept things together, and I believed I was doing the right thing. The hallway smelled faintly of pizza from the delivery downstairs, and I could hear muffled laughter through the walls. I pressed my key into the door, thinking about how I'd helped her yet again, completely unaware that what I thought was gratitude might just be setting the stage for something much darker. Things started to feel a little off a few months in. Lily was still struggling, of course, but her tone was changing, subtle, almost casual, like she expected me to just keep footing the bills. I remember sitting at the kitchen table one night, flicking through my emails, when she leaned over and said, "You know, if you weren't around, I'd probably be living in my car by now." Her voice was light, teasing almost, but there was a sharp edge to it. I smiled, waving it off. "That's what I'm here for," I said, though a tiny knot of unease tightened in my chest. She started asking for small favors more frequently. Extra groceries, covering her utilities, lending her a bit for coffee runs, or a new phone charger. I didn't mind. I told myself it was temporary, that everyone hits a rough patch. But friends kept nudging me. "Bro, I don't mean to freak you out, but are you sure she's not just taking advantage?" one of them said when I dropped by for a beer. I laughed, shaking my head, stubborn as ever. "Come on, it's my sister. I know her better than anyone. She's grateful, trust me." Even my parents seemed to notice her subtle manipulations. Whenever they praised me for helping, Lily would give me this half smile, half sigh, as if to silently complain, and then quietly say, "Yeah, thanks for keeping me afloat, I guess." I tried to ignore it, thinking I was imagining things. The apartment smelled faintly of the lingering aroma from her candle collection, and the hum of the heater made the room feel warmer than it was outside. I leaned back in my chair and felt that familiar swell of pride again. I was doing the right thing, being the responsible one, the good brother. But deep down, even as I poured another cup of coffee for her, a small, nagging thought lingered in the back of my mind. Maybe this generosity wasn't just helping her. It might be shaping something I wasn't ready to see yet. Then it happened. I woke up one Saturday morning to my parents' frantic voices echoing through the house. "What did you do to the car?" my dad shouted from the driveway, and I froze. Confused, I rushed outside, coffee still in hand, and saw the scratches, long, deep gashes along the driver's side door. My stomach sank. I hadn't touched the car in weeks, and I knew it. I'd been working late nights, barely getting any sleep. Lily was standing by the car, eyes wide, voice trembling. "I saw you near it last night. Why would you even?" "I can't believe you'd be so careless," she stammered, her hands fluttering nervously. My parents looked at me with disappointment written all over their faces, and I felt a cold rush of panic. I started, but my words faltered. How could I convince them it wasn't me when Lily was standing there, crying perfectly on cue? My friend's warnings echoed in my head. Maybe she was capable of manipulation, but I still wanted to believe in her. I wanted to trust my sister. I even glanced at her, hoping for some sign of truth, some hesitation, but all I saw was the same carefully curated panic she always displayed when she needed sympathy. The air smelled sharp with the faint scent of gasoline from the car, mixed with the wet morning dew. My parents' voices rose in disbelief and frustration, and the neighbor's dog barked from across the street, adding to the chaos. I felt trapped, my chest tightening with a mix of anger and confusion. How could the sister I helped month after month turn this into an accusation against me? I looked at her one last time, disbelief and hurt battling in my chest, and whispered to myself, "This can't be real. It just can't." And yet, deep down, a tiny, terrifying seed of doubt began to grow. I wasn't sure I'd be able to prove my innocence before everything I'd done for her got twisted against me. The next few days felt like walking through a fog. My parents were quiet around me, exchanging glances that made my skin crawl, and every word I tried to say about the car damage seemed to fall flat. Lily, meanwhile, acted like the innocent victim, carefully punctuating her sentences with soft sighs and wide eyes. "I just don't understand why this happened," she'd say, shaking her head. "I thought we could trust each other." My parents nodded along, their disappointment toward me deepening without any proof. I kept replaying the previous night in my head, trying to remember if I had somehow touched the car without realizing it, but I knew I hadn't. Friends tried to reach out. "Dude, you need evidence. Something tangible. She's playing you." One texted, and I felt a flicker of clarity, but also frustration. How could I be the responsible one and yet feel completely powerless? The apartment felt colder than usual, the blinds half closed, casting long shadows across the floor. Even the hum of the refrigerator sounded louder, almost accusatory. Every interaction with Lily became a minefield. She'd pass me in the hallway with a small, almost imperceptible smirk, then follow it with a fake frown when my parents were around. I started noticing tiny inconsistencies, little gestures that didn't add up, like the way her shoes were scuffed in a way that mirrored the scratches on the car. But pointing it out risked backlash, and my parents weren't fully listening yet. I began losing sleep, imagining what this could do to my reputation in the family. I'd always been the good kid, the responsible one, and suddenly, it felt like everything I'd done to support her, to protect her, was being used as ammunition against me. That night, as I sat on the edge of my bed listening to the faint hum of the streetlights outside, I realized something terrifying. I was completely isolated. Everyone seemed to believe Lily's version, and I wasn't sure if I could convince them otherwise. I clenched my fists, my chest tight with a mixture of fear and anger, and whispered to myself, "I have to figure this out, but how?" It didn't take long for things to spiral further. Lily started adding evidence to the story, little details meant to make her lie believable. She casually mentioned seeing me near the car at night, even though I had been at work late, and added vague claims about overhearing me complain about how much I was spending on her. Every word was calculated, and I could see the look of sympathy on my parents' faces, the same faces that had once trusted me implicitly. My chest tightened with frustration. How could someone I'd helped month after month turn my generosity into a weapon? Friends called, offering advice, and I felt a flicker of hope, but it didn't help the gnawing anxiety inside me. "You need proof," one of them said. "Something undeniable. Otherwise, it's your word against hers, and right now, she's winning." I nodded silently, staring out the window at the street below, the cold wind carrying the faint scent of wet pavement. The night felt heavier, more oppressive than usual, pressing in from every corner of the apartment. Every interaction with Lily became a delicate dance. She would casually brush past me in the hallway, giving me a soft smile that felt like mockery, then turn to my parents with tears in her eyes, saying, "I just don't understand why this is happening." And my parents, caught between what they wanted to believe and the evidence they thought they saw, wavered. I wanted to scream, to demand they see the truth, but the words felt useless. I started keeping my distance, avoiding rooms where she might be waiting to manipulate the situation further. The tension was suffocating. Every creak of the floorboards or rustle of the curtains felt like a trap. I could feel my anger simmering beneath the surface, paired with a deep, gnawing sadness that someone I trusted completely could betray me so easily. That night, lying awake in the dark, I realized the first step forward wasn't confrontation, it was strategy. I had to find a way to prove the truth without giving her a chance to twist it again. And as I stared at the faint glow of the streetlights outside, I knew one thing for certain. This wasn't over. I finally decided to confront Lily directly. I caught her alone in the kitchen one evening, the hum of the refrigerator filling the silence. "Lily, we need to talk," I said, trying to keep my voice calm, though my hands were shaking. She looked up at me, eyes wide and innocent, a soft sigh escaping her lips. "What is it?" she asked, her tone light, almost playful. "I know you're lying about the car," I said, keeping my words measured. "I want the truth. Did you do this?" The way her eyes flickered for a fraction of a second made my stomach churn. Then she tilted her head, smiling softly. "I don't know what you mean," she whispered, voice dripping with faux confusion. My chest tightened. It wasn't just denial, it was mockery. I stepped closer, trying to read her face, to find a crack in the act. "Lily, stop. I've covered your rent for months, paid your bills, helped you more than anyone else. And this is how you treat me." The apartment smelled faintly of her candle, vanilla and something cloying, and the quiet hum of the heater made the tension even more oppressive. She shrugged casually, her lips curling into a small smirk. "I don't know what you're so worked up about. Maybe you're imagining things." The audacity of it hit me like a punch to the gut. I'd always been patient, always the responsible one, but now the sister I'd trusted was turning everything I'd done into a weapon against me. My hands curled into fists at my sides. I realized then that confrontation alone wouldn't work. She had perfected her act, and I couldn't rely on words alone to convince anyone. I would need proof, tangible, undeniable proof. And as I left the kitchen, the sound of her soft humming behind me, I knew I had to start planning. Every move I made from now on had to be precise, because one wrong step and everything I'd built, everything I'd sacrificed, could be twisted against me permanently. Everything changed the night I discovered the footage. I was rummaging through our parents' old security system, mostly out of frustration, when I noticed a timestamp from 2 nights ago. Hesitant, I clicked play, and there she was. Lily, moving deliberately, scratching the car door with what looked like a key. My stomach dropped. The sound of metal against metal, faint but unmistakable, echoed from the speakers, and I felt my chest tighten with a mix of shock and rage. I rewound it, watching it again and again, almost unable to believe my eyes. There was no doubt. She had done it. She had staged the entire scene to frame me. Every late-night accusation, every teary confession to my parents, every, "I don't understand why this is happening," all lies. All calculated. My hands were trembling as I muted the footage, the smell of dust and old electronics heavy in the room, mingling with the faint scent of Lily's candles from the living room. For the first time, the betrayal hit me fully. I'd been covering her rent, supporting her, trusting her implicitly, and she had used that trust to make me look guilty. A part of me wanted to scream, to run to my parents and show them immediately, but another part whispered to be patient. I couldn't just react. I needed undeniable proof to expose her fully. I began gathering receipts, text messages, and bank records, piecing together the months of her manipulation. Every little inconsistency, every sly remark, suddenly made sense. She had been setting me up the entire time. That night, I lay awake on my bed, staring at the ceiling, heart racing. The sense of violation, the anger, and the disbelief all tangled into a knot I couldn't shake. One thought kept repeating itself in my head. She thinks she can get away with this, but she has no idea what's coming next. I hit rock bottom the night I tried to show my parents the footage. I waited until everyone was home, heart pounding, clutching my phone like it was a lifeline. "I found something," I said, voice tight, holding up the video. But before I could play it, Lily snatched it from my hands. "You're lying. You're just trying to make me look bad," she shouted, and my parents flinched at the sudden tension. Their faces were a mix of disbelief and exhaustion, unsure who to trust. My throat tightened, panic rising like a wave. I felt completely isolated. Friends had offered advice, but they couldn't be here, watching the betrayal unfold firsthand. Lily's lies were slick, rehearsed, and persuasive. She had this uncanny way of twisting reality, so everyone questioned me instead. I could feel my anger simmering, but it was tangled with a deep, gnawing sadness. I had sacrificed so much for her, and now everything I'd done, every late-night paycheck, every grocery run, every kind word, was being weaponized against me. The apartment felt suffocating. The faint hum of the refrigerator sounded accusatory. The scent of vanilla candles clung to the air, a reminder of her constant presence, her manipulations hiding behind a mask of innocence. I sank into the couch, heart hammering, hands shaking, and felt a despair so raw it stole my breath. For the first time, I questioned whether I could ever turn this around. I realized the confrontation alone wasn't enough. She was too good at lying, too practiced at manipulating everyone around her. If I wanted justice, I had to be smarter, more patient, more meticulous than she ever expected. And as I stared at the flickering glow of the streetlights outside my window, I made a silent vow to myself. I wasn't giving up. I wasn't letting her get away with this. But how I was going to fight back, I didn't know yet. After that night, I knew I had to change tactics. I couldn't confront Lily head-on anymore. She was too cunning, too practiced, but I could collect evidence, quietly and meticulously. I started digging through old texts, payment records, and emails, piecing together the months of financial support I'd given her. Every transaction, every small loan, every late-night message that hinted at her dependence, it all painted a pattern of manipulation I was determined to prove. The apartment was quiet except for the soft tapping of my keyboard and the occasional creak of the floorboards. The faint scent of vanilla from her candles lingered, and I felt a surge of anger each time I caught a whiff, a reminder of how she had weaponized my trust. Friends started helping from a distance, offering advice on how to document everything without tipping her off. Screen everything, take timestamps, and don't let her see you getting suspicious, one texted. I followed their advice, double-checking receipts and cross-referencing dates. Slowly, a clearer picture emerged. Lily hadn't just lied about the car. She had been planning to frame me all along, exploiting my generosity to make herself look innocent. I began dropping subtle hints, carefully observing her reactions. Every time I mentioned responsibility or financial accountability, she twitched ever so slightly, a crack in her carefully constructed mask. My heart raced when I noticed it. Finally, tangible evidence of her guilt. The tension in the apartment thickened. I could feel it in the way she avoided my gaze, the way her smile faltered whenever I mentioned the car, the way her footsteps hesitated when I moved through the rooms. I realized she knew the walls were closing in, and that fear was my leverage now. By the end of the week, I had everything I needed to confront her, and this time, it would be on my terms. I just had to wait for the right moment. And as I stared at the documents and footage spread across the table, I whispered to myself, she thinks she's untouchable. She has no idea what's coming next. The day of the confrontation arrived, and I felt a mix of nerves and anticipation I'd never experienced before. I called a family meeting, insisting that everyone be present, including Lily. My parents looked wary, clearly uneasy, while Lily floated around the living room with that same practiced smile, completely unaware of what I had in store. I have something to show you all, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. The apartment smelled faintly of coffee and the lingering scent of her candles, an odd juxtaposition to the storm about to unfold. I started with the simplest evidence, text messages where Lily admitted she'd been careless with money, receipts showing the rent payments I'd covered for her, and emails where she asked for favors while feigning desperation. My parents leaned in, eyes narrowing as they scanned each document. And then there's this, I continued, connecting the dots, videos from the security system that show exactly who damaged the car. I hit play on the footage, and the entire room fell silent. Lily froze, her confident smile faltering as she saw herself, clear as day, scratching the car door. I could feel my pulse in my ears. My parents exchanged stunned glances, disbelief written all over their faces. Lily tried to speak, to interrupt, but I calmly held up a hand. No, just watch. I've saved every text, every payment, every late-night conversation. It's all here. Her lips trembled slightly, the mask of innocence cracking for the first time. The tension was unbearable. The faint hum of the heater and the soft rustle of curtains became the soundtrack to her unraveling. I could see the fear and panic in her eyes now, the calculated composure I'd been battling for months completely gone. I leaned back slightly, letting the silence stretch, letting my parents absorb the truth. And in that moment, I felt a surge of vindication, a mix of relief and quiet triumph. Lily had underestimated me, and now, finally, she couldn't hide behind lies any longer. The fallout was immediate, and for the first time, Lily had to face consequences. My parents, still processing the footage and evidence, were furious, but this time their anger was directed at her. "Lily, how could you do this?" my mom asked, voice trembling with disappointment. "All this time, he's been helping you, and you turn around and lie about him?" The words cut sharper than I expected. Lily stammered, trying to explain, but her voice sounded small, weak, and hollow, completely lacking the confidence she'd carried for months. I could feel a strange mix of satisfaction and exhaustion. Months of manipulation, gaslighting, and betrayal had brought me here, and I finally had the upper hand. My friends were right. Documentation and patience had been the key, and now it was paying off. My parents were already talking about restitution, making her repay part of the rent she'd relied on without acknowledging, and setting strict rules for accountability moving forward. The atmosphere in the apartment had changed. Lily moved quietly, avoiding eye contact, her candlelit comfort zones replaced with tension. I could hear her footsteps echo softly on the wooden floor as she went about her tasks, a stark contrast to the confidence she'd once flaunted. Every glance she cast my way was now filled with hesitation, guilt, and fear. I watched silently, letting her come to terms with the reality of her actions. It wasn't vindictive, it was justice. She had weaponized my trust for months, and now she was learning the consequences of betrayal. By the end of the evening, my parents had apologized to me for doubting me, acknowledging the unfairness of the past weeks. Friends texted their congratulations quietly, sharing in the satisfaction of seeing the truth finally come to light. And as I lay in bed that night, I felt a sense of calm I hadn't experienced in months. The worst was behind me, and for the first time, I felt like the responsible one had truly won. The days that followed felt surreal. Lily moved around the house quietly, subdued, no longer carrying that smug confidence that had dominated every room for months. My parents reinstated boundaries, making it clear that my trust could not be exploited again. It felt strange at first, almost empty, but in a good way, like the storm had passed, and I could finally breathe. I had proven not just to them, but to myself, that standing my ground, documenting everything, and waiting for the right moment could restore justice. I reflected on everything. The months of covering her rent, the small kindnesses I thought were strengthening our bond, and how easily she had tried to twist them against me. It was painful, yes, but also empowering. I realized that my value wasn't in blind generosity. It was in discernment, in protecting myself while still being compassionate. The apartment smelled faintly of clean laundry and coffee brewing in the morning, a mundane comfort that suddenly felt like freedom. Lily, for her part, had to face the consequences, restitution, accountability, and the realization that manipulation wouldn't get her what she wanted anymore. She avoided me in the hallway, every glance fleeting, a constant reminder of how quickly the tables had turned. And as I watched her navigate the guilt and discomfort she had once tried to heap on me, I felt a strange satisfaction, not revenge for revenge's sake, but justice finally served. I sat by the window one evening, the faint hum of traffic below and the cool night air drifting through the slightly open pane. I felt lighter than I had in months, a mix of relief, pride, and quiet triumph. The betrayal, the sleepless nights, the emotional weight, they were all behind me. I had learned, grown, and come out stronger. For the first time in a long time, I felt in control of my life, my boundaries, and my family relationships. I realized that walking away from manipulation and standing up for myself was the most powerful revenge I could ever take. And in that calm, still moment, I whispered to myself, I won't let anyone take that from me again.